Hey everybody, welcome to the final week of Unit 1. This week you will be peer reviewing and revising your first essay to turn in on Sunday. So let's talk a little bit about the peer review process that you're going to engage in this week. You'll need to go back to week 3, click on that, and find the DB Essay 1 where you posted your draft, and this is where you're going to go to find two other students' drafts to review. Okay, so I want to note a couple things about your review process. First, I've posted very specific questions here to answer in your peer review. I am not looking for you to comment about grammar usage or comma errors or periods missing or capitalization problems or even MLA or APA formatting. I am looking for you to review idea development and organization in a way that meets the requirements of the assignment. So make sure that you stay focused on answering these questions for your review. You may want to print them off or have them accessible while you're reading. So you're making sure that you are commenting specifically on what each of you need feedback on. Okay. When you do this, you'll peer review 2 different essays, and you'll want to make sure that you peer review one essay or essays that do not have any responses or only have 1 response. The goal is that everybody gets their essay peer reviewed twice. So if you are flipping through the discussion board and you see that somebody already has 2 reviews or 2 responses, do not review that one. Okay, so you're looking for an essay that has 0 or 1 response posted. Another thing to keep in mind for the peer review is that it is a 2-way street. One of the challenges with peer review is that you as a student may give so much good information, really work hard at giving valuable feedback to your classmates, and then you get your own feedback, the peer review done on yours, and you think, oh, that's not going to help me at all. Thanks a lot. Thanks for nothing. So what is important to recognize is that even if you don't get necessarily good or useful feedback from other students, from your classmates, the very process of reading other people's essays can help you in revising your final draft. So for me, what I do when I'm reading my peers' essays is I look for weak spots and I think, oh, I did that in my essay. Oof, not so good. And we really recognize it when we read it in somebody else's essay. So I think I'm going to make sure I go back and fix that in my own. Or you may find a spot that's really strong. You're like, whoa, I really like what they did here. I want to do something like that. I want to use that strategy, that technique in my own essay. So then I'll go back and take that strategy and incorporate it in my final revisions. So realize that yes, your goal is to give feedback that works for your classmates, but in the process, you can also be reading critically for your own writing process. So think about what students did well and you want to replicate that, or things that maybe they didn't do so well and you realize that you actually did that too. And we can recognize it in other people's writing in ways that we don't always see it in our own. All right, so that's peer review process. Couple other things I want to note for this week. I've posted some other, that's still week 3. Let me go back out, get into week 4. I've posted some other resources for you in week 4. Okay. One of them being a very short video on scholarly versus popular articles. Some students are still struggling trying to figure out what's an academic source, what's a popular source. Just because I found it on the database, but it's from New York Times. Okay, so that video here, it's a couple minutes, it's worth the watch. It will give you some good indicators of scholarly versus popular sources. So make sure that you're distinguishing between those two. Also, when we quote texts in our own text, we want to make sure that we are using in-text citations correctly. Chapters 6 and 7 of this book, of our textbook, last week, I should say, you took a quiz on it, talked a bit about integrating sources and avoiding plagiarism. Chapter 7 specifically focused on how to cite sources in your work. Now, I'm giving you the choice to use MLA or APA, so decide which is better for your background knowledge or for the field that you're going into, which is more appropriate. It's up to you. But I also included some information here. There's plenty in the textbook, but I give an extra resource. Talks about using signal phrases. Signal phrases introduce quotes. If you don't have a signal phrase, you have a dropped quote. If you just put a quote in parentheses, period at the end, it's called a dropped quote. Every quote that you introduce has to be, or every quote that you integrate has to be introduced. And so here are some ideas. APA format. In the words of researchers Serrano and Coronado, note that APA uses the year of publication right after that, then the quote with quotation marks, page number at the end. As Joe Malono, 2006, noted, comma, quotation, okay? If there's no page number because it's an online source, you don't have to worry about it then. So there's some APA examples. Scroll down. Here are some examples of signal phrases in MLA. All right, so again, MLA does not use the year in the in-text citation like APA does. And then here's a great chart. I love this one because it gives me a lot of different verbs to use in my signal phrase. A lot of times I get stuck writing so-and-so states, Joe Smith argues, okay? But there's so much more we can do. So think about having this list out as a handy resource as you're revising to think about what might be some different verbs that could be more appropriate or more effective for your signal phrase. All right, so that is just an additional resource that is posted there for you. And then on Sunday, you'll actually upload your essay here. Make sure that you have a works cited or references page, depending on which you're doing, APA or MLA. If you need some more resources for APA or MLA citation style or formatting, you can Google it. Ton of great resources out there. Just make sure you're looking for something that's a .edu. It's coming from an academic institution or Purdue OWL, in addition to the textbook. Lots to help you out there. Okay, and now a few final tips for revising for your final draft. Number 1, make sure you go back into week 2 and review the assignment. Okay, don't just think you've got it. I put a sample outline there. I put questions that I'll be asking myself as I grade your work. I put the background. I put all of the information you need. Review that assignment. Make sure you are on track. You are meeting the requirements, okay, that you didn't just go start going the wrong way, because then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've turned in a paper that doesn't actually meet the criteria. So make sure you've reviewed the Essay 1 assignment. It's posted under week 2. We are focusing on the background and the history and why this topic is important. We are not arguing. I'm going to say that one more time. We are not arguing. A couple of people noted in the discussion last week, that's hard to do because if you've written an argumentative paper before, you're really used to just jumping right into the argument. Okay? I am slowing us down. I'm backing us up as researchers, as critical readers, as academics. Okay, we are learning the conversation first before we just jump in and insert our voice to it. Don't worry, you'll get there. It's our last essay. But right now, it's just the research, the ideas, the conversation behind the topic. Okay, not your argument. Another hint, I should not see the word you, Y-O-U, second person pronoun, in your essay. This is a really bad habit for students. They don't even realize they're doing it. There's no reason for you to be addressing your reader with the word you. It's informal, it's the wrong genre, it's not what we're doing, and oftentimes you don't even realize you're doing it. So my recommendation is to do a find function or a control F function or search function in your document and search for you and see if you've used it. And then figure out what is the actual pronoun you should be using. Most likely it's going to be third person. A few of you may have first person here where you're making a connection to a personal story of yours. as part of the background. Otherwise, it's probably going to be he, she, they, them. Okay, so look for those. There's one grammar hint. It's called grammarly.com. I will put a link to it in this week's announcement so that you can use that as kind of a final check. A lot of students have found that useful. So that's all my advice for this week. I look forward to reading your final drafts, and let me know if you have any questions while you're revising.